Hello, hello, my emotional wisdom community. I want to talk about the movie Sound of Freedom. I feel like I want to encourage individuals that may feel hesitant in watching the movie because it might be too much for them, okay? Why am I saying this? Because that is what happened to me. I initially, when I learned about this on TikTok, I did not learn about it via, mainstream media. I did not hear about it until I saw the movie on TikTok. And in addition, my sister and my cousins the next day brought it, or 2 days later brought it to my attention. So that was interesting. I think it was synchronicity encouraging me to watch this movie, to learn about this movie, and in addition to watch it. As I said, when I learned about the movie and I heard all the noise about it via TikTok, I went to the trailer and I looked it up, and I assumed that it was going to be too graphic, too difficult for me to see it. Why? I'm very sensitive. I don't like watching scary movies. I don't like watching possession movies of people being possessed by dark entities, evil, demonic movies. I don't like watching that. I don't like watching killing movies that involve a lot of war, killing. It really, really does affect my nervous system. It really does affect my mental state. To give you even a better insight as to the level of how it is with me, seeing animals suffer cruelty affects me. Major abuse, animal abuse, animals being abandoned by their owners affects me. Literally, I don't know why I do this to myself, but sometimes I run across some videos of animals being abandoned by their owners or being cruel to the animals, and now the dog is traumatized, right? And it's suffering fear, and it's just too much. And so I find myself crying for several minutes, or even having the thought of those stories and images in my mind for days. So obviously, if we're dealing now with children, it's going to be a big deal. These are children, okay? Now we're dealing with humans. So that's the reason why for me it was going to be I assumed that it was going to be too difficult for me to view. So when my sister, hey, are you interested in watching the movie? She had me on a group chat. I was like, it's going to be too much for my mental health. And then after reviewing more videos and feedback on the movie and learning that it was a PG-13 movie and that people were taking their children, I was like, oh, I can do this. This is not going to be so bad. I can do this. And so I signed up to go. And I'm saying this as well. I'm emphasizing on this because several people reached out to me. They learned about the movie because of my posting, because I posted on my social medias about clips about the movie and information. Okay. And so several people reached out to me inquiring, in fact, letting me know that they learned about the movie because of me. And so that only ignited the need to do this review or this feedback of the movie, and also to mention for my delicate, sensitive, empath people, right, that it is okay. You can handle it. Definitely go. It's going to provide perspective. It's going to expand your empathy. It's going to increase your compassion, which is what we need more in this world, this compassion, empathy for others. We also need to become aware as a collective of what we're dealing with in this world. Okay? It's invaluable. So here's what I mean. There's two types of people. Two. There's one type that prefers to live in la la land and just be happy 24/7. I understand. I'm very empathetic for that choice because the world could be very cruel. And if that is your coping mechanism, to just focus on happy thoughts, rest assured that I get it because it is hard. And so if that is your coping mechanism, I'm not bringing shame onto you. I'm letting you know I understand. But I am inviting you to hear what I'm about to say and be open-minded. When we only focus on positive things, or we only choose to see things in a positive light, we're also, it could be a detriment. Essentially, that is vibrating an in denial. That is you being in denial of things that need your attention. Ultimately, what you're doing for yourself is you're setting yourself up for danger in the future. And when I say danger is when issues are not being seen, admitted, faced, and we're gaslighting ourselves to label that experience as a positive one and to disregard the lesson that can be learned behind it. We're really depriving our growth, our healing, and the evolution of mankind. We're really depriving that. And we're beings that require expansion. I mean, we are built for expansion. And if we're not wanting to face the problem at hand that's in your own personal life, and you're only choosing positivity, I want to be that perspective to say there's going to be an expiration date to that approach. And typically people get sideswiped when they live in that space of just only wanting to see things in a positive light. I'm not encouraging you to obviously live in fear, but what I am encouraging is that growth, healing, happiness, true happiness requires you to heal wounds, to heal traumas, to basically face things, issues, distortions, discords that you're wanting to run from. So the moment you get courageous enough to face the issues that you've been trained to run from, to resist, to suppress, to push away, the moment you get courageous to look at them, now you are providing yourself an opportunity for healing. You're providing yourself the opportunity to create a different outcome. And you don't have to fake it to feel good. You don't have to gaslight yourself, lie to yourself to feel good. Because even that feel good is not real. It tastes different when it's more authentic. You will notice the difference when it's authentic. And in addition to, when you face the thing you're trying to avoid because you believe it's too big for you to handle, if you continue to face it, or not face it, rather said, you're going to invite more of it. So you can finally see what you're needing to pay attention to heal, to rehabilitate, to restore. And what you'll discover, it's the very thing you've been wanting. And so why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because choosing to look at the world's issues, choosing to see what is happening in the world collectively, okay, is beneficial. The same way it's beneficial for you to face your fears, your traumas, your wounds, what you resist. There is value in that. In the same way there's value in that, there's value in facing what's happening collectively in the world that's hindering us, that's affecting us. One of the values of no longer being in denial of what's happening in the world collectively. One of the values, okay, is you now have the opportunity to protect your own children. In this case, we're going to reference Sound of Freedom, the movie. And so Sound of Freedom is a movie that's advocating, that's shining awareness to human trafficking, specifically in child trafficking, child sex trafficking, child trafficking. And so when you are aware that this is an epidemic, it is expanding, people. The fact, so I want to paint the picture of how this is very severe. The fact that now we're hearing more cases that children are in the danger of abduction at Target, Walmart, restaurants in broad daylight. The fact that we're hearing more cases of this happening in the States, in restaurants, broad daylight, Target, malls. The fact that this is happening more. Imagine in third world countries. Imagine in third world countries where the law enforcement is not reliable, where the law enforcement potentially fell through the cracks, where the law enforcement is not as equipped to basically say the least. Imagine how it's happening there, the severity, the extent of how it's happening in third world countries. This is sad. This is a problem. And so, because we're seeing it more in the States, in public places that you would never assume to be exposed to trafficking or to kidnapping or to any form of abduction, the fact that we're hearing more cases, it should be your business. You should want to know how you can protect your children, right? So again, one of the reasons why this movie is invaluable in terms of awareness and what can you do, to say a few, is, as I said, protect your children. Also, the way that it can look like is, if you have children, be more diligent, more aware, more cautious when model agencies, talent agencies approach your children. And or if your child, or you are interested for your child to be in the industry, be more diligent. Understand that is an avenue for trafficking. Do you understand what I mean? In the movie, you had the rep who was a very well-known model. Here she is approaching children and facing parents, letting them know that their child has talent. And so you have a trustworthy, right, person saying that your child has potential. People are going to get excited and release their children and say, Okay, if this person that is worthy to have an opinion, right? She has validity, if you will, due to her background, then, it should be fine for my child. So that is one way, if you have children, why you need to watch the movie. Also, if you take your children, I do believe it's a benefit. They will also know and be more cautious of people that approach them. Again, sometimes we want to protect and shelter our children thinking we're doing the right thing so they don't live in fear. Well, guess what? That is not the world we're living in. We don't live in a world where it's safe, fully. We live in a world where crime is rising, mental health is rising, mental illness is rising. With mental illness rising, depression rising, many people can do crazy things. Wounded people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. So if mental illness is rising, so is dangerous threat is rising. People behave unkind, violent, distorted when they're wounded and they suffer mental illness. Not everyone, of course, but we're now opening doors for that, right? If mental illness is on the rise, people could turn to violence. And that's what we've seen. Let's just look at the shootings. Let's look at the shootings. This is happening, guys. This is a collective problem, especially in the States when it comes to that. But what I'm emphasizing here is that, again, is that there is a benefit to watching this movie and how you can do your part, right? Well, what can I do? My hands are tied, what can I do? Well, if you have children, this is definitely for you. This is definitely for you. And if you feel okay for your child to accompany you to watch the movie, even better, right? You're giving them the opportunity to survive a threat. That is what you're giving them, the opportunity to survive a threat. Also, another way that it can look like watching this movie is that if you are in the industry of foster care, of adoption centers, in centers that involve children, be more aware of what's happening. If you notice weird things happening, that your intuition is telling you something's wrong, then something's wrong. Report that, look into that. You have the opportunity, being in your position of profession or of career or of occupation, to protect the children that you are associated to through your occupation. Huge opportunity. People in the law enforcement, huge opportunity to be more vigilant, to be more prepared on how to detect predators. You see what I mean? There's many ways in which you could protect yourself by being aware of what's really happening in our backyard. Here's another piece of information that I can tell you why this is something that's very serious to consider and very beneficial. I have a personal story as well. I don't think I'm going to go into detail here, but I have a personal story of things that, not to mention, I was almost kidnapped when we were at a flea market. I remember we were at an open air mall in our town, and a man grabbed my hand and he tried to pull me and I got away. That was very scary. But the incident that I want to go into detail in another video is going to be of when I used to perform. My sister and I, we used to perform for an upcoming artist, singer. We used to do backup dancing. And so through the process of that experience of being exposed to the industry, music industry, I knew casting couch, if you will, was a thing. I knew that there was predators everywhere, but I didn't realize that to the degree, I suppose. And so I have my own little story of incident where we were targeted. But I will save that for another time. But to stick to the point of the review, my feelings with the Sound of Freedom, I think that it was accurate. First of all, it's based on a true story. Someone like myself who would go to Mexico every year for 2 months, I could honestly say that these issues were very, very loud in Mexico. So someone that has been around situations that were threatening. It's something that the Latin culture knows too well. This happens majority in third world countries, in India, Thailand, Mexico. Because again, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to be in situations where you can depend in the law enforcement or the government. We're in that same boat, but so I say this, that this is something that's very real. And so the faster you can expose yourself and your children and everyone to the real threat that's out there, the greater the opportunity that you could protect yourself and prevent something to happen. Now for me, because I was mentioning how ways in which people could contribute, right? How, now that I'm aware, what can I do, right? What can I do? As far as me goes, I'm in the business of awareness. I'm in the business of encouraging people to look at what they're afraid to look at inside of them. Technically, what this movie is doing in a collective scale, right, worldly scale, is what I'm doing for my clients internally. Is how can we heal and end the internal battle that we ourselves are struggling with internally. So I encourage my clients to understand that self-awareness is the number one step for true healing and integration and expansion. To face the things that they don't want to face their fears, to face their insecurities, to admit to them, so they can have the opportunity to create resolution. Because not until we face the threats, right? Not until we face what we perceive as the threat inside of us and externally in our world, not until we face it, could we then provide it the missing experience or a solution, a remedy. And so my part is to continue to go harder in advocating for self-awareness. Self-awareness internally, so we can achieve healing, integration, and expansion, and awareness collectively. And so, of course, I'm going to advocate for this movie. Of course, I want to put it out there for people to watch this movie. And those several individuals that reached out to me, and those who also share the same initial reaction when I saw the trailer of this movie, I felt I couldn't watch it. No, and here's the thing. I didn't have to watch this movie to convince myself of the epidemic that we're experiencing, of the problem that we're suffering collectively, globally. I didn't have to watch a movie. I knew this. I knew that this stuff happened, and I knew this was happening in a large scale. The thing that I was intimidated by was what I'm going to see. Can I handle this? If I can't even handle animal cruelty, animal abandonment, imagine with humans, with children at that. But when I discovered it was PG-13 and people took their children, I said, I should be fine. It's going to be soft. And sure enough. So I want to tell you that if you feel intimidated and you feel it's going to be too hard for you to view, and on a visceral level, you're going to feel it's going to be too much, then I'm here to say you're fine. Go and watch the movie. It's still hard and it's still emotional. If I can handle it, you're going to be able to handle it. But it still hits. And I think that it's a good hit. I think it's a good reactivity. I feel like it's a good visceral reactivity. We need that so we can choose differently, right? So we can choose differently. My beautiful community, I highly, highly encourage every human being to watch. I feel that the more we all view this, the more we can desire change on a global scale, right? The kind of change that we need for a better humanity, for a more self-sustaining world. And we need compassion. We need to raise our compassion level. And this movie gives us that, right? It makes us emotional. It gives us the opportunity to tune in to the characters, to the feeling, to the experience. If you're a parent, it helps you think of your child, empathize. That empathy creates emotion. That connects us. We're all the same, more than what you guys think. And so increasing our empathy is what we're wanting, right? Expand our compassion is what we're wanting as well. But not until we understand what's happening and the problem could we then render that, right? Anyway,